to Play to Your Best Summit. It's a series that are bringing experts in mindset, nutrition, training, recovery, and it's, just so jam-packed full of awesomeness and people that are bringing forward such wealth of experience. And today we have Dr. Shelley Burns. I am so excited about talking with you. We actually have a hard time stop talking. So here we are, we've pressed the record and we are live.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, let me just give our listeners just a little bit of an idea about who you are. You have been in this health and fitness industry for over 20 years. And where you really are focused is on female athletes between 40 and 60. And you bring to your expertise is not only are you a chiropractor, so you're a doctor of chiropractic care, you are a gym owner, specifically CrossFit, branded CrossFit, or of an alternative CrossFit being affiliated. And you are also a life coach. And really, I love it coming into your space. Your pillars are mindset, self-care, nutrition, and fitness. And so, like, how aligned is that? It's just beautiful. This is why we have a hard time stop talking when we, are getting ready to talk. In any case, welcome. And we have got a lot to get into today.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Did I miss anything that you want me to really touch in on?
Oh, no, that was good.
That was good. That was all right. Okay. So what we're going to do is get right into your experience of the CrossFit world. And why I'm so excited about this is not only because I have had CrossFit athletes come into Project 51, it's because I want to understand and a little bit more about how does CrossFit training work, and in terms of heart rate and not heart rate, or strength or perceived effort. So in the endurance world, we really tap into these notions of metrics of pace and power, or heart rate and perceived effort. And what I want to understand is, what are those metrics, or how do you understand, or how do you come into the workout of strength and high intensity interval training? And you also have the endurance certification. So let's make sure we tap into that for the CrossFit endurance. And I'm just going to throw everything in the bucket, and then I'm going to let you speak for a really long time.
I was going to say, this is a lot.
I know, but I just really want to give the grounding of where we're coming into, because how do we manage and understand, how do we add that intensity? Because this is the push and the pull of training. And when is it too much? So take it away, wherever you want to start on that.
Well, I will start by saying, and if I get off track and lose where we even started, just bring me back.
I'll bring you back.
So before I started CrossFit, which was in 2009, I loved Olympic distance triathlons. I loved half marathons. Those were my favorite. I've only done one half Ironman. I've not ever done a full, and I've done one marathon because my body hated me with the longer, but half, 2 to 3 hours, I'm good with a push. But over that, I really would beat myself up where I needed a couple months after each race. So I decided the shorter distance. Well, somewhere in there, I played college basketball. So I was playing pickup leagues in LA when I lived out there. And my friend, who actually won the 2010 games, was like, come do this workout with me. And she'd say all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm a trainer. I don't even know what any of that stuff is. What are you talking about? She's like, just do it. Well, she talked her whole team into doing a workout. And we were like, well, what is it? She goes, it's 1 lap, 400 meters of walking lunges. And we're like, that's it? Whatever, we'll do it.
That sounds so painful to me. But anyways, I know what that is like. I just had to do 8.
Yeah. So none of us could walk for about a week, and we were all like, sign us up. Because once you go through a college level or something, what you as a professional athlete, not that I was, but at that level, it's hard to I'm not sure what the word is, but it's hard to re-stimulate that soreness and that, because you get stuck doing the same. I mean, I had gotten into getting on the elliptical every day. How boring. But you know what I mean? You're looking for that push and that little bit of competitiveness. And so when we did that workout, ever since then, I started incorporating CrossFit into my personal training sessions. Now I've been a personal trainer for 20 years, but CrossFit since 2009. So and a CrossFit gym owner for 10 years, or it's going on 10 years in February. So I'm excited about that. But so when I came into the CrossFit world, my mindset was on long hours on the bike, long hours on your feet, and, getting in the pool 2-3 times a week. And so when I started the gym and they're like, you have to come, 3 times a week and I was like, well, like it was hard for me to decrease mileage. First of all, it was a mindset thing. I was like, decrease mileage. No, I have to do this. It's almost like I felt if I didn't do that, I wasn't going to be able to perform in the races. So that's kind of where the journey started.
And that's the mindset. And this is truly the mindset of so many athletes. And we know, as trainer, coach of athletes in perimenopause and beyond, like all my athletes, they're hitting the gym. Like it's not even it's a non-negotiable, as you would say, as we continuously hear, it's a non-negotiable now. So it's something that people will be like, oh yeah, okay, you keep on saying these things, so you're just, you're perfect. You're talking to people that really need to hear it. Yeah.
And not only that, but as a chiropractor for 20 years, I knew we needed to do strength training. I knew we needed to, in and amongst all this pounding of my running, because I was more of a runner than I was anything else in the 3 sport. But the running just was really starting to bother me. So the funny thing was when I started CrossFit training and I started doing 3 to 4 times a week of CrossFit, I still did some outside, but I probably cut my mileage to a quarter of what I was doing. And then I started signing up for races again. And it was the craziest thing because I got faster. I started PRing races that I had done 4 or 5 times, and not by just 30 seconds. I mean, we're talking 3 to 4 minutes, and my miles per hour got faster. So I was like, okay, I'm not hardly running. All I'm doing is this strength stuff. And I've gotten better and faster at what I'm doing. So that's the one thing that drew me to CrossFit too. I felt like it's good for overall strength and across the board. Yeah. And with CrossFit, I know we talked about this before, but we don't really we don't wear heart rate monitors or really focus on, I mean, maybe some gyms do because every gym is independent of each other. But in here, we don't look at that. It's when you do the workout, you want to get to a point in the intensity of it. You want to get to the point where you have pushed so hard that after the workout, you need to lay there for a second. Now, I don't mean you're going to pass out or you're on the verge of a heart attack, but I mean you've exhausted yourself, you depleted your storage, and you need a second to recover. There's people in here where they'll do a workout and they're immediately putting their stuff up. They're talking during the workout. And I'm like, okay, you're missing the CrossFit methodology. You got to get into that intensity in order to get results. Now, when being over 40, this becomes a little trickier. As with me, I stopped getting results because I was doing probably 4 to 5 WODs a week. And then I was also enjoying trail running. I started doing OCR racing after the whole triathlon thing. After a couple of years, I got really into obstacle course racing. And so when I turned 42, 43, I started getting the perimenopause symptoms, anxiety. I gained weight. I had never done that in my life. And I'm 43 and gaining weight and not sure how to do 20 pounds. And I think it was 3 months. I mean, that's hard for an athlete to gain 20 pounds. Your strength goes down, your, endurance goes down, everything drops, and you just aren't relating to even whose body you're in at that point. So with CrossFit, I really had to change what I was doing. And it was only after I was told I was in perimenopause based off some blood work, I started researching as what you did. You said, you just start reading about it. You're trying to figure out what can I do?
What the heck? Yeah.
Yeah. What is this? What can I do? Why isn't what I was doing in my 30s working anymore? So I did a lot of research and found that, HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training workouts, are really good for women over 40. And they suggest 3 times a week. And then if you want to do your walking and whatever else cardio you like to do, add that in. But so I cut back to three times a week. Yeah. Actually before that. So when I didn't know I was in perimenopause, I was working out. I was doing 6 workouts a week, CrossFit. 3 of those days I was doing 2 days, meaning I would go run in the afternoon. I was I got to get this weight off. In my head, I'm just I just got to exercise more.
Yeah, work hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Doing all the research, I had found that 3 days a week of HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training, and then your cardio or whatever, but not to overdo the cardio. And with the strength training, you got to get the strength training in, but there's a fine line where you're almost overdoing the strength training. And a lot of coaches and trainers won't talk about this, but with CrossFit, if you're following it the way it's written, there's RX. And if you're a good athlete and you have, or natural athlete more, not necessarily good, a natural athlete where you pick up on the movements quick and your form is good, then you typically go up in weight to this recommended weight. Well, I mean, I could do it, but my body I wasn't recovering. Like, you're big on recovery. I wasn't recovering. Normally it would take me overnight and I could do it again, but I was noticing my body was taking 3 days to recover from what I considered a heavy CrossFit workout. And it's not that I was lifting wrong or bad. It's just my body just needed more time. So what I started doing is I went to 3 CrossFit workouts a week. And then I started just walking 45 minutes a day and then adding in some other stuff that I like to do. I mean, I still like hiking, like 10-mile hikes up and down the mountains in North Carolina and backpacking and stuff like that. But I just laid off the intensity and I stopped worrying about the weight on the bar. I put enough weight on there to push myself to where I could get into that intensity zone, but without doing RX and 1 rep maxing and things like that. Like, those are good, but I personally couldn't do it. So strength training is just so important after 40 for our bone density and our muscle mass. It's just, we have to do it. And I wanted to keep doing it, but I didn't want to damage my joints.
Well, one thing maybe you can help our listeners understand is a little bit more like, so within CrossFit, the reason why it's so freaking brilliant in so many ways is because it offers such variability and variability of movement, variability in terms of like, you're going to do different sets, you're going to do different reps, you're going to do different things. And so one of the challenges, this is one of the challenges. So I have my athletes that love their CrossFit and they're wanting to be still endurance. And one of the challenges as a coach and trying to understand and guide athletes through this is like, okay, so what are you doing today? Because we have, like, in endurance world, we have such, like, it's very prescriptive. It's like, we're going to work on this targeted, we're going to work on our speed, or we're going to work on our strength endurance. And I know that CrossFit has the same sort of, we're going to work on HIIT training. So we're going to be doing sets and it's going to be how many reps, and it's very specific. It's very targeted. But how do we help our listeners understand and come to, okay, this is my gym. I love my gym. How do I start to understand how to put this together with the variability? Yeah.
So CrossFit is, it's constantly varied functional movements at a high intensity. So that right there HIIT workouts can be some CrossFit workouts can be considered HIIT workouts, which is why I love it. Cause that's what 40 they say we need. Yeah. So I did take that's the best thing about CrossFit is you don't get bored every day. Now there are different programming out there and programs, and not all gyms program the same. You almost have to program for your community. So I would say that with the programming, it should be constantly varied. Like, you should not be doing the same workout repeated over and over. Like, I have some training clients that come to me and they're like, I've done the same workout 3 times a week for 8 weeks. And I'm like, oh, how boring. Your body hates you right now. Like, it's so bored. So I try to do that with the CrossFit programming here. I do that programming. I do it with my personal training clients, but I really try to get the constantly varied, because that's how our body's going to respond. That constant stimulus of, variety. That's how we get results. If some people get on the treadmill and do 3 miles a day at 3.5 miles per hour for a year, and they're like, why am I not getting results? You know what I mean? So that's what I love about CrossFit. You get results because it's your body's just constantly learning something new and adapting, and having to, our muscles are having to just, you go through the soreness and build it back up, and all that happens with muscle tear down and breaking up. But I did take a CrossFit endurance cert, and this is how it was explained to me, which I was very interested in, coming from endurance to CrossFit. So their whole methodology in the CrossFit endurance was that you do CrossFit 2 to 3 times a week, and then you still get in your, whatever your disciplines are, swim, bike, and run, or if you're a marathon runner, just running, whatever it may be, but that you decrease the mileage or the pounding on your feet in half. So you still want to get in your long run and maybe one smaller run during the week, or mid run. I'm not sure what that is considered for the long distance people, but for me, I knew what that was. So I I learned to do that 3 times a week CrossFit. And then, so I kind of actually instilled that as I moved into the trail running and OCR. I would only work out CrossFit wise 3 times a week so that I wouldn't overtrain. But it really does carry on. That's what the CrossFit is too. Like what we do in the gym trains us for life, trains us for what we do out there. So it goes across the board. And one of the things CrossFit talks about a lot, even in the CERT, is that the reason CrossFit says it's like the fittest man and woman on earth is because if you take a triathlete, if you take a bodybuilder who just does max lifts, and then you take a CrossFit athlete and you have them do 10 workouts. Well, let's say one of them is a heavy workout. Automatically the bodybuilder is going to win, but who's going to take second? The CrossFitter.
Yeah.
The endurance athlete is going to take third. But if you have a marathon, CrossFitter's probably going to take second. So across the board, CrossFit is good at increasing your average across the board of different activities. So and that's what I love about it, is like that middle of the line athlete. I can remember my friend Chris, the one that won 2010, she didn't take, I think she took first in one event out of like 8 or 10 at that point. I mean, it was a while ago, so they've changed since then, but she just did so like above average across the board that she ended up winning. And it was just like, she just kept staying in first because she just stayed up just enough where everybody else would be really good at something and then they'd be terrible at the next thing. So yeah, I just love it. I mean, I love CrossFit, but I also love everything else. Like I'm not against any sort of other form of training. I think any movement is good, but in CrossFit sometimes gets a bad name, which we talked about too, but each gym is different. So I always say, if you can find a CrossFit gym where the coach has some background other than just their CrossFit level 1 and has like a physical therapist, or like I'm a chiropractor, or anyone that's been a trainer for more than just going and getting their CrossFit cert, or has something in the human body, or has a study in the human body, like they're really going to make sure your form is good. And that's not bad against all CrossFit gyms. We're just all different, have different disciplines. So I always make sure that if you are going to increase weight, you have to have good form, which is why it's good to have a coach. You know, even if what your HIIT workouts or whatever you do, it's good to have a coach watch you and make sure you're performing, because if you're performing in an imbalanced state, that's going to carry over into your activity. And then you're going to set yourself up for low back pain, knee pain, ankle pain. And it could all be just from how you're training, because nobody's watching for those imbalances. So I'm a big fan of having a trainer or coach, but they can also increase weight when they know you're ready based off of your form. So it's good to lift weights and go heavy, but you have to have good form.
Yeah. So much there. Okay. So much there that you just said, and really awesome. So when we come into HIIT training, this is what is fascinating. So in the endurance world, HIIT training is like 30 15s. You would do, say, 12 times, 30 on, 15 recover. Now, what's fascinating about what you're saying here as well is that, okay, so say the prescription is 30 15s. Does that can make sense for you, right? Yeah. So, we'll do it for 9 minutes. Say the total time is 9 minutes. On the bike, it's one thing. It's actually threshold training.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because what is happening with our heart rate? We're going as hard as we can, but you can't go as hard as you can because it's over a course of 9 minutes. Well, we know that this is a targeted area for 9 minutes, and it's under what you would call your VO2 max. So I'm getting technical, but there's a reason why I'm getting technical. So because I'm trying to understand is, like, in the CrossFit world, you've also brought in this strength component that is harder to add in when you're, it's the torque almost. It's when you're doing 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off, and you're doing it with a squat. Yeah. Say a goblet squat or kind of like swings or something like that. It's going to be very different in the intensity. And so how do you support your athletes in understanding that intensity, and where do you go? Because for me, it's easier. I think it's easier for me to be like, okay, well, I know that this is where you're going to be able to do about 9 minutes. Yeah.
Well, if you study or if you read up on HIIT workouts and the ones that work, because there's a lot of boutique gyms out there that say they're doing HIIT workouts and they're 45 minutes to an hour long.
Oh goodness, no, there's no way.
Yeah. So the idea of HIIT workout is that you are at 90% of your max intensity in that short spurt. So like 30 seconds, or for some people, it could be 20 seconds, 15 seconds of work, and then 15 seconds rest. You almost have to know your athletes and know when are they starting to dip, right? So to work at 90%, some people can't work. I mean, they can't work very long. And then HIIT workouts are anywhere from, 7 to 15 minutes max, because if you're going longer than that, you are not giving 90%. So you're not really doing a HIIT workout. You're doing a moderate intensity workout, which does not get the same results as high intensity workouts. So you could do moderate for 45 minutes, but why not do 15 minutes and actually get more results and better?
So do you use perceived effort then? Like, is that, so 90%, how do you explain 90% to your people?
So how I explain 90% is that, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. So I don't explain it in CrossFit. CrossFit's a little bit different in that we don't necessarily talk about HIIT. We talk about, so we do a warm up. That's nice and easy. 7 minutes, do these rounds. Then we do a strength. It's typically a barbell movement or some sort of accessory movement. Again, slow down. You're maybe burning your muscles, but you're not burning your cardio. So then we get into the workout, which today was, for us here, it was a under 10-minute workout. Now, the idea is in that 10 minutes, you should be just as tired if you went to the gym for an hour or two and messed around, right? You're actually going to get more in 10 minutes than those people that go and sit at the gym for 2 hours and take selfies and move around the machines. Like, you've got a better workout in 10 minutes. And the reason is because when you get to that 90% explain, you shouldn't be able to talk to anybody. You should be when the buzzer hits, or the buzzer. I'm back in basketball. When the clock goes off,
I can just hear the little app.
I'm back in the days. So when the clock beeps, that, you should be breathing heavy. You should be out of breath. You should not, like I said, you should not be at that point where you're passing out or you're going to throw up. Now, CrossFit is known for that throwing up, Pukey the clown or whatever they call him. I never really got into that because I want people to feel good when they leave here.
Yeah.
And some gyms really push that. But for me, it's like, I don't want anybody throwing up. Have people threw up? Yes, but it's because they haven't done anything. And even just a 9-minute HIIT workout with them, they start getting nauseous. So, and I'm not talking they do a full workout. We're talking 9 minutes first workout and they're getting nauseous. It's just they're inactive people. So, so that's with CrossFit. I don't necessarily talk about that, but with HIIT workouts, you should, in that 20 minutes, I always explain it like in that 20 minutes, you should feel like you have nothing, 20 seconds. You should feel you have nothing more to give in that 20 seconds where you are ready for that 15-second break. And it's just enough where, like, you just keep giving your full effort, which, let's face it, even if somebody thinks they're giving their full effort, it's probably not full effort, right?
Especially if they think they're going to manage the whole full 9 minutes of it.
Yeah.
So 12 times,
20 seconds.
It's a real hard to do mental challenge there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I've done 45, 15 seconds. And with the 45, you can tell if somebody's not reaching 90 seconds because they're stopping to have to rest. So let's say it's push-ups. A lot of girls aren't good at doing a bunch of push-ups, let alone for 45 seconds.
Oh yeah.
So if I say 45 seconds of push-ups and you're going to get 15 seconds rest, and they're doing 5 push-ups and then sitting there for 10 seconds because they can't do another push-up, I'm not doing them good as a trainer because they're definitely not hitting 90%. So I need to decrease the time and make sure they're working at least during that whole work period compared to the rest period. I don't know if that makes sense.
Do you? No, totally. Well, it makes sense to me. I understand. And hopefully to our listeners. So one of the curiosity that I have is that there's this idea within the endurance world too. And I guess really why I'm asking these really specific questions is because I love learning from other formats and other ways of thinking, and how we can bring this learning into our training, because I'm fully on board. Like I follow Dr. Steven Seiler. He's 80-20. And so 80% is aerobic. That's your walking that you're doing. This is your 2 aerobic workouts a week that, a mid-run I have, like, for my athletes, these are for athletes that are endurance athletes, between 40 minutes and 90 minutes. So, whatever that looks like. And then I do have the longer soul filling. You go out and you run. And sometimes if it's race specific, we'll do tempo at that actually as well, because we need to practice, if you're being competitive, being at that tempo. So that putting aside, with the 80-20 principle of Dr. Steven Seiler, it's really specific. Everything is under a heart rate range of 75, a maximum 75% of your maximum is one way to put it. Under 2 millimoles of lactate is another way. And then the third way is looking at your VO2 max. And this becomes really interesting because they're not all like totally, you're gauging different things. That's why we say at the end of the day, let's just do perceived effort, because that is actually the most accurate or the consistent of what we find. So then we come into this 90% or like the 20%, which has to be up and into that, and where you're taking that intensity and extending out and playing with those ranges. In CrossFit, do you ever play with that range of HIIT workout as well? So that you do 2 sets of HIIT workout, so you say 9 minutes. If you're not gassed, then you haven't done the job. Do you ever do 2 times 9 minutes with full rest in between to get it again?
The best thing with CrossFit programming is there's so many different ways to program,
right?
That, we'll do like a typical will be, we run a lot at our gym. That's probably because of my background, but a lot of gyms don't run. So we run a lot of 400s, 800s, and 1 miles, and then come in and do a bunch of stuff and then go out and run again. So our gym is more of like a cardio gym. Visitors are like, you guys run a lot. And I'm like, well, yeah, we like running here. But, so when we do programming, we'll do a long workout, like 30 to 40 minutes, class is an hour, 30 to 40 minutes. And that is not made to be a HIIT workout. That's made to like hit your body in a different way. The next day we could do 2 7-minute AMRAPs or circuits, where we take like a 3 minutes in between. We also do Tabatas, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. We do stations. We do EMOMs, which is every minute on the minute. So it's like an example would be, this is just from off the top of my head, 10 push-ups every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. So the faster you do your push-ups, the more of a break you have. So that's in a way a HIIT workout, or you could look at it that way. But there's also really good workouts that CrossFit has written, where there's a workout called Barbara, where it's 20 pull-ups, 30 push-ups, 40 sit-ups, and 50 air squats. And then you look at the clock and you take a mandatory 3-minute rest. Well, everybody's taking different 3-minute rest. So you're pushing within your own limit to get through that as fast as you can. And then you rest for 3 minutes.
And that'll all look different durations.
And then you do
perfect.
So it ends up being a long workout, but you're incorporating the rest. Yeah. And some of CrossFit's original programming is some of the best programming.
What I want to offer people that are endurance athletes and that are hearing this, because it'll be hard for people to understand potentially, or maybe you've totally got it all, and kudos to those that have, this is the point that I think that I'm getting from this, which just is so exciting for me, this is the point. When we are training for fitness and we're training for health and we're training because as you mentioned, the CrossFit athlete is the across the board, the fittest person, right? That's the claim, right? Yeah. And so, what is happening? And I use, this is the second philosophy and principle that we use in the training and the programming that we do, is we never leave any zone behind. It's just like, we want to continue to add the variability, because we've got to keep, and you've mentioned this in your CrossFit, it's like, why are you doing the same thing? Because that's not going to, and Dr. Carla Di Girolamo is also a CrossFit,
yeah, I spoke with her. Yeah.
Amazing human and expert in this series. So listen to her as well. But she also, when we talked about estrogen and it decreasing, and how is it that we're going to remind those muscle fibers, like, you're still needed. Like, don't go anywhere, is by actually accessing and creating that variability. So what's different, I believe, in this range, this stage of life, perimenopause and in the beyond, is that in the traditional coming up as an endurance athlete, you would think, I am going to be specific in looking at my pacing for this race. I'm going to train for that race. I'm going to do this for that race. You're doing yourself a disservice if in this stage of life, you don't add and ensure that you have that variability in your training, even though you don't need short interval training or sprint interval training. So short, really like short efforts, big rest.
Yeah.
You know what? Like it's actually not even awesome for in a metabolic optimization sense of, and so I'm getting geeky here, but like when we're trying to look at substrate use, if you're looking really at the specificity of elite athletes and saying, okay, you're an endurance athlete, they could have something called the VLA max. So the volume of lactate, maximal lactate, right? And this is an inside terminology. So you have this VLA max, and what you don't want to do is get to the point that you're training your body to go super glycolytic. Why is that? Because we want to keep using and we want to maximize and extend out our ability to use fat as a substrate and to burn less carbohydrate. Why? Because we're trying to go long. That being said, we still got to do the training. We still have to touch it. And that's what CrossFit is asking. So to summarize, you can have too much of a good thing. We can do too much, especially now in this stage. You've mentioned that.
In any sport, really.
In any sport. And
that's the thing. I'm not against any,
right.
Whatever you're doing to be active, you know, and it motivates you, good. Like, I don't think CrossFit is the catch-all. I think I have some people I have to move to more of a personal training type where I don't do CrossFit, but more of a rehabilitation type. So I think everybody has to embrace where they're at in their journey. And you just have to, it's hard to know your body when you're competitive and you're an athlete. So you have to realize when you stop making gains, then you've leveled out. So you got to do something different. And that's where the variability comes. So like whether you do your tempo training or, you know, differently, or change your interval periods that you're working, it's the same in here. Or when I personal train somebody, or when I trail run, like if I want to get faster, I don't go out and just run, you know, 10 miles on the trail and just la-di-da. Like I have to pay attention to what I'm doing. So if I'm stressed, and we're going to talk about stress, but
yeah,
as women over 40 and our cortisol level raises and our stress and our lack of sleep, you know, it just happens because of our hormones all over the place. So you are going to be most people get less sleep, or you're irritable, or, you know, you're gaining weight. So you got all this stuff happening, and you got to know that your stress level is rising, even though you don't want to admit it perhaps, but when our stress is so high, our body's not going to recover. So when you keep attacking it with more and more workouts, and you're like, but this is going to work, I'm going to lose this weight, you know, you're really doing more harm than good at that point. So you have to get recovery. CrossFit's real big on 3 days of working out, 1 day off. But I know a lot of people that will do 4 on, 1 off, or 2 and 1, 2 and 1. And most of the people in this gym, because we're in Western North Carolina with the mountains, are mountain bikers, trail runners. I mean, we got very outside active people, to where they do this year round to just be better on the outside. So
yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like how, especially like, as you have such personal experience with it, like you were finding that sometimes it took 2 days to recover. And how did you come to know, or what, like, I think it would be helpful for listeners to hear, like, how do you start to come into understanding, okay, that's me pushing it too much, and I didn't recover well enough because I just couldn't do what was asked. I couldn't get that intensity. How are you sharing that experience?
So how when I wasn't getting the results, even though I was doing double, triple the work I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was frustrating me, because normally the more you do, the more results you get, but it was backfiring on me. And at this point, not only was that happening, I gained weight. And so I was having a midlife crisis because I was a gym owner, but I went from having minor anxiety to major anxiety and full panic attacks within 8 months. And I had gone to the doctor 4 times, regular doctor, who kept putting me on anti-anxiety meds. And then the last thing was putting me on sleeping meds, because I was like, I'm not sleeping. Like, I'm maybe getting 2 hours of sleep a night. And, you know, I get up early because of the gym, but, you know, after 8 months of that and all the anxiety meds, I finally was like, I'm getting worse and I'm on all these freaking pills.
And
I'm a bad one to take pills anyway, because I'm always like, try to do all natural first. And I tried the mindset, I tried therapy. My therapist said, you're just over 40. You have to just, you know, you got to get used to it. And I was like, I'm like, you're fired. And he was a man. And he's like, you know, you just aren't going to be able to do what you used to do. And I'm like, I don't want to do what I used to do. I want to just be able to do it and feel good. So anyway, so with the training, I was still coming in here and pushing a lot. And I feel like I was trying to do the RX, which is the prescribed weight. And what was happening is the very next day when I would try to work out, not only was I exhausted and didn't want to do it, wasn't motivated, but when I would do it, I could tell that, I mean, my time started getting slower. My joints started hurting. And so when I got my blood test and this other doctor was like, oh, you're in perimenopause. And I started reading about it. I started reading that more is not good. You need to be smarter than your brain and say, meaning like we want to push. That's what we've been trained to do.
Oh, we've been doing it all our lives.
Actually, will get better results if you slow yourself down, do that self-care and mindset, and just, it's okay to rest. Like you don't have to beat yourself up if you don't do it. And my rest, and it's not everybody, some people's rest is resting, like not doing anything. My rest is doing a 45-minute walk a day. Now, and not even for like power walking out there. It's just for my own, I want to move, but I don't want to go into that stress level. And almost I'll listen to a book or podcast. And I look forward to those 45 minutes a day because it's me time. And I'm still outside. I'm enjoying nature, but I'm not increasing my cortisol and burning. It's almost like you're burning the candle at both ends. And eventually it will catch up with you where you're not even going to be able to work out. You're going to be so exhausted. You get the anxiety or whatever, and you're just not going to be, you're just going to beat yourself up. You're not going to be performing the way you want to. So you have to know your body and start listening to it. And sometimes it's hard if you don't have body awareness. Not everybody does, but if you start to notice like you're really pushing and you are not getting anywhere, or you feel like you're just hitting a wall and you're getting more tired and more exhausted, less motivated to work out, then you need to change some things up. And the best thing you can do is find a coach, because we are trained and we've seen, or you and me both have seen like hundreds of people and been able to support hundreds of people. So we have all those stories to come and look at you as an individual. Whereas you as an individual might say, something's not working, but I'm just going to keep doing this because this is what I know. Well, sometimes what we knew when we were in our 30s is not going to work when we get older. So you got to find alternative ways to push yourself, but without burning yourself out and, increasing your stress hormones and just doing more damage, and no recovery means your joints are going to start hurting over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And we hear a lot about, and this is what's interesting about it, is that again, and it's come up in a number of interviews, is this idea of what is perimenopause, what is a symptom of perimenopause and hormonal change, and what is this idea of stress, right? And when we're overstressed, it can show up as joint pain and more inflammation. And when in perimenopause, it can show up of joint pain and inflammation because of a hormonal change. But imagine they're coming together. And so it's going to just be a lot worse. And so if we're really starting to see that those shifts are occurring, then okay, you have to work. It's like a double whammy, right? Like, it's like, you really want to think about it in both ways of like, what can I control? What can I do? What can I experiment with and be curious? It's excellent. Tell me, just let's finish, because I really want to tap into your pillars that you have, because they're so alike.
Can I say one thing before we move on? Because I'll forget.
Yeah.
I'm also not against HRT. I feel like if you are a candidate and I will say, and this is my own experience, but after I went to that doctor and she told me I was in perimenopause, and I was getting ready to crash hard. Like I had been on the downward spiral and I was getting ready to crash. I was on my last string when I went to her, and I said, something's got to change, or like, I'm going to lose my marbles. I'm going to be in a loony bin. Like I'm on edge. Yep. I'm going to lose my businesses. She put me on the lowest dose. She's like, I think you're strong enough. You could do this on your own, but it's going to take a long time. She's like, let's just do a minor dose of HRT or minimal dose. and just try to get you back evened out. And then you can keep going back to this. She's like, I think you're so far, your stress levels are so high, you are not going to be able to bring those down yourself. Within 2 weeks, I have not had, so this was about 2 years ago, I have not had anxiety or panic attack again, all from a minimal dose of HRT. So I am not in any way against HRT. I think like it has its place, and some women do really well. And I have lots of women that are on it and do really well. It's worked well for me. And again, I just did a minimal dose, and it really helped even me out to where it just brought my stress down, where I can function. Like I can, and I now know more how I got there in the first place. Was I was overdoing it. I was overtraining and not eating and fueling my body properly. So our bodies are made to try to get away from those. Our bodies increase stress because there's nothing left. There's no energy coming up. So like our bodies use whatever it can to produce energy to get up in the morning and this and that. Well, like there's going to be a point where like, you burn out. So, and sometimes like HRT is good. I mean, I'm not a medical doctor or OBGYN, so I can't really speak much to that, but I just know it worked for me. And just don't believe everything you read from back in the
day of the horse hormones that they were using. And
there's so much more now. And honestly, I found my doctor there's a website called menopause.org, where anywhere North American Menopause Society, where you can look up a menopause specialist in your area. And a lot of times it's an OBGYN, which there's lots of those, but these ones are extra training in how to deal with women in menopause and perimenopause. And that was probably the best thing I did, is I found a doctor that actually had training in what we were experiencing.
I think so important, so absolutely important. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. Because we do need to be reminded that there are options. And to also point out that hormones are, before we came on, we were talking a little bit about the complexity of hormones and how difficult it is to really understand what's going on, and that OBGYNs and, endocrinologists specifically have done nothing but, they've done a lot of things in their lives, like Dr. Carla, but anyway, that's what they're trained to do in their entirety, is to start to understand the hormones. And when you actually talk to one, they'll understand we know so little.
Yeah.
When you see,
they got like 2 weeks.
Yeah. And so when you see somebody that has an answer and they think, oh, this is exactly what's happening for you, that's when you might need to be a little bit cautious. When you see somebody and they say, this is an incredibly complex and we'd like to see how this works, then you're like, you know something, because there's so many networks. And when we're talking about hormones and and this is why OBGYNs, endocrinologists really specializing in hormone therapy are so important to hear, and so important, because anybody that can look at one slice isn't getting the whole picture. And I think that's, this is a whole other tangent that, you and I love to talk about, or could talk about on a whole other session, and maybe we should one day. But it's this trying to bring into natural health care, trying to understand that we want solutions, having a starting place. And what I'm so glad you said is like, this was something that you were able to do and take on, and within 2 weeks change your life, like literally, by the sounds of it. So amen to that. I know I'm going straight for it. If I can't manage, and like I'm just early perimenopause right now, and it's going to be a real it's going to be a doozy for me, because hormones are a doozy for me, just generally. So I know I've got it coming. But I definitely know, and I'm, we'll schedule it in and value that expertise. Is there anything that you think that we should really tap into before I ask my rapid fire questions of you, on mindset, self-care, nutrition, or fitness that we have not been able to, we haven't really talked about your nutrition, pillar, but if there's anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Real simple with nutrition.
Oh, so
eat whole foods.
Okay.
I do work with macros, and some intermittent fasting, depending on, somebody's background and sometimes I just try to change something simple that they're eating. Like let's not have diets. Let's not have diet soda every day. So sometimes it's just changing what they think they need every day and replacing it with something else. So a lot of times I'll just work with whole foods first and try to get that started. And then I dive deeper into, okay, as a woman, you need to increase your protein. I try to get, again, I'm different. I try to get my women up to 40% protein of their macros, and then 30-30. So that's kind of how I look at nutrition. And again, it helps if you have somebody to hold yourself accountable to. So my ladies always send me their little picture of their macros, and I'm like, hey, your fat's way up today, or, they do that for accountability. And even when they're out of my program, I will still get text about their macros, because they just know that it's an accountability thing. And if I'm going to look at it, they know they need to, they're like, oh, I was really going to be bad, but I knew I had to send you my macros. So it's all about accountability, to find somebody that's going to support you in your journey and hold you to what your goals are.
I think it's such an important point, and it comes into like the coaching process, and there's again, so much we can read, so much we can learn, so many podcasts we can have part of, but what is your system that you're coming into? And by system, I mean that accountability piece. How is it that you will hold and try new things, not having a soda? Or how do you try new things and actually say, oh, okay, I can do that small step. I can take on that little thing. And then, but being like, that's my thing. Like, and I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to take it on, and I'm going to like totally crush it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to crush that soda. It's going to be awesome. All right. Okay. But actually, before we get to our rapid fire questions, you have a free gift that you are sharing. Do you want to just share a little bit about that free gift with all of our listeners?
Oh, I think I came up with a new one. I got to give you the new thing.
You did.
It's I came up with one I think women will like better. So I had a 12 secrets of perimenopause and menopause, but I've come up with 30 workouts. These are workouts you can do at home, traveling, or at a gym. You don't really need anything. I tried to make them all body weight. There's running incorporated, so interval type running, but not more than a mile, I don't think. But it's one pager of 30 different workouts you can do from at home. So it's there. 30 workouts.
Oh, cool. A one pager, 30 workouts. That I don't even know if there's 30 lines on a page, but you got it in there. So well done.
I did.
Bring your glasses, people.
Yeah, so I will have that link for you. Yes.
Oh, that's so exciting. I love it. Okay. Are you ready for my rapid fire?
Yes.
Okay.
I wrote the answers down.
Okay. So you're
I'm not good at rapid fire. I like to think about things.
Okay. Okay. The first question is, what is one thing that you are in your work or you're learning that you're super stoked about right now?
So the biggest thing is I've been working on this book since last October. It's called Menopause Tsunami: How to Ride the Hormone Waves Like a Badass. And it incorporates the 4 pillars: fitness, nutrition, mindset, and self-care. And it just gives tips and tricks. There's nothing in there about the detailed about hormones that you can find in other books. It's all about finding the things you can control and controlling the things you can't control. So that book is coming out. Hopefully it's in formatting right now. Hopefully by the end of the year is the goal.
This is so fun. And what a great name, Menopause Tsunami. There you have it. If you've been, we'll make sure that we touch base on that and help you get it out into the world. What is one thing you're grateful for?
When I thought about this question, honestly, my family, I don't have an immediate family other than my 3.5 dogs. I adopted one just in the last couple months. My family, because they've always supported me, even when I'm going from the gym to online training to chiropractic, which school was a long time. They've always supported me in everything I've done. And my mom has been like my biggest fan since I can remember. Even playing college basketball, they would drive to almost every game unless it was like more than 3 hours away.
Isn't it so powerful? Amen to moms. Yay. They are big fans.
Enjoy them. As we get older, you notice too, like our parents are getting older, and I just try to appreciate every moment that I am around them. Cause I mean, they're in their 60s. I'm in my 40s. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that time. I see it. I'm living it. What is one principle that you live by? So
this is something I close my podcast with, and that I started saying probably 15, 20 years ago, but I was thinking about it. And when people complain about moving and not being able to move, or they can move, but they're like, I don't want to do it, and they're just lazy. I'm always like, we have these bodies, and right now we're gifted with the ability to move them. And so I always say we have to enjoy every moment of every movement, because think about it, if like there's people, things happen and they can't move, or they're now limited. And some of those people I've met are some of the most amazing athletes and people that are driven. Like they have all the excuses in the world, and they've outdone them all. And then when you got somebody who could move and be free, and they choose not to. So I'm always like, enjoy every movement, every moment of every movement, because we're really not guaranteed another one.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I want to just end there because it's such a, yeah, perfect. It's a perfect way to end the podcast. It's a perfect way to end this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your wisdom, and for all our conversations to lead up to this. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.